Chosen one, hey old timer, you ever wake up at 3 a.m. in that cramped apartment staring at those ceiling cracks like they're telling you something you don't want to hear? What if I told you those cracks aren't just wear and tear? They're actually God's handwriting mapping out a glory so massive it would make your past regrets look like pocket change. And what if July 22nd, 2025? Today is the day heaven stops whispering and starts yanking you out of that corner you've been hiding in. Listen close, because this ain't your typical Sunday sermon sugarcoating. This is street-level truth from the God who sees you sitting there, wondering if all those years of grinding, all those dreams that got buried under bills and responsibilities, all those moments when you felt invisible while everyone else seemed to get their big break, wondering if it was all for nothing. You know that ache in your chest, that hollow feeling when you scroll through social media, seeing everyone else's highlight reels while you're sitting in your kitchen at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, eating cereal for dinner because nobody's coming over anyway. That emptiness when your kids moved out and suddenly your house sounds like an echo chamber. That weight when you realize society's moved on without you treating you like yesterday's newspaper. Here's the shocker nobody's told you. God ain't disappointed in you. He's proud of you. That ache you feel, it ain't age creeping in. It's eternity knocking, warning you to grab hold before the subway doors slam shut on your last train home. See, while you've been beating yourself up for not being further along, for not having more to show for all those years, God's been in heaven's boardroom showing off your scars like purple hearts, your struggles like training certificates, your endurance like a heavyweight championship belt. You think you're forgotten. You think you missed your shot. You think God's moved on to the younger generation. Dead wrong. Those battles you thought you lost. Heaven was forging you into something unbreakable. Every rejection, every betrayal, every night you cried yourself to sleep thinking, God, where are you? That was boot camp for this moment. Because today, July 22nd, 2025, God's about to push you to the front like a Broadway star stepping into the spotlight. But here's the catch. This train only stops once. Miss it, and you'll spend the rest of your days wondering, what if you feel that urgency building in your chest right now? That's not anxiety. That's heaven's alarm clock going off, telling you to wake up and realize that your greatest chapter isn't behind you. It's about to explode in front of you. Warning: ignore this and you'll miss heaven, pushing you to the front while everyone who counted you out watches from the cheap seats. If that ache in your soul just recognized itself, if something deep inside you just stirred awake for the first time in years, type, I'm claiming my front row in the comments right now. Let's light up heaven's notification board and show God you're finally ready to stop hiding from the greatness He planted in you before you took your first breath. You ever sit in that same chair where your spouse used to sit, staring at the empty space like it's mocking you? You ever flip through those photo albums at 2 a.m., wondering where all those dreams went to die? You ever catch yourself talking to God like He's screening your calls, wondering if He even remembers your name anymore? Because here's what nobody tells you about getting older in America. It ain't just your body that starts creaking, it's your soul. And somewhere between watching your kids move 3 time zones away and realizing society treats you like expired milk, you start wondering if God made some cosmic mistake with your life. Picture this. You're sitting in your living room in Queens, looking around at walls that hold 40 years of memories, but somehow the space feels emptier than a midnight subway platform. The career that was supposed to fulfill you left you drained. The marriage that was supposed to complete you left you hollow. The prayers you shot up to heaven for decades seem to bounce off that popcorn ceiling like rubber balls. And you're thinking, God, what was the point of all this grinding, all this surviving, all this hanging on when everyone else seems to have gotten their big break, while I'm still waiting in line like some forgotten extra in my own life story? Let me tell you something that's going to shake you to your core. Those voids you're staring at, those empty spaces that feel like God's neglect, they're not punishment. They're not evidence that you failed. They're not proof that heaven forgot your address. Those voids are God's blueprint. See, before you took your first breath in that Brooklyn hospital, before your mother even knew she was carrying you, heaven's architects were already designing those exact spaces in your life. Not to torture you, but to house something so magnificent that only pain could carve out enough room for it. Think about the Manhattan skyline. Before they could build those towers that scrape the clouds, they had to dig deep. They had to excavate. They had to create massive empty spaces underground before they could reach toward heaven. Your voids. They're excavation sites. Every job that drained you was digging deeper. Every relationship that left you hollow was carving out more space. Every unanswered prayer wasn't God ignoring you. It was God expanding your capacity to hold something bigger than you ever imagined possible. You know what Job said when everything was stripped away from him, when his wife told him to curse God and die. Job 13:15. Though he slay me, yet will I trust in him. That old man didn't understand why the digging was necessary. He just knew that somewhere in the excavation, God was building something eternal. But here's where it gets real personal. You weren't just born into this world like some random accident. You were dispatched from heaven's command center with a mission so critical that they couldn't trust it to anyone else. They looked at what was coming, the specific battles this generation would face, the particular kind of darkness that would try to swallow hope, and heaven said, "We need someone who can take a beating and still believe. We need someone who can sit in the void and still trust. We need someone who looks beaten but carries victory in their DNA." That's why your story looks different. That's why your pain cut deeper. That's why your waiting lasted longer. You weren't being punished. You were being prepared for a front row seat in the greatest comeback story heaven ever wrote. And here's the kicker that's going to flip your whole perspective. Every void you're staring at, every empty space that makes you feel forgotten, those aren't craters of destruction. They're launching pads, like the silence before thunder, like the inhale before the shout, like the crouch before the leap. Look at those cracks in your apartment walls again. In Manhattan, when buildings settle, those cracks don't mean the building is failing, they mean it's finding its foundation. Your cracks, they're not signs of collapse. They're evidence that something massive is about to settle into place. Remember what Jesus said in John 16:20. You will weep and mourn while the world rejoices. You will grieve, but your grief will turn to joy. That grief you've been carrying, that mourning over what never came to pass, it's about to flip. Because July 22nd, 2025, today isn't just another date on the calendar. Today is the day heaven stops excavating and starts building. Today is when those voids stop being empty spaces and start being sacred vessels. Today is when your scars stop being reminders of what broke you and start being proof of what couldn't. The void you've been cursing is actually heaven's vault storing up glory that only someone with your exact battle scars could unlock. Those aren't chains around your ankles, those are keys in your pocket. And the question that's going to determine everything that happens next is this: are you ready to stop seeing yourself as damaged goods and start recognizing yourself as heaven's secret weapon? Because what I'm about to show you will prove that your greatest pain has been secretly preparing you for your greatest purpose. Now hold on to your seat, chosen one, because what I'm about to reveal will shatter everything you thought you knew about your purpose on this earth. Back before the first steel beam was welded into the Empire State Building, before Brooklyn had its first brownstone, before Manhattan was anything more than wilderness and dreams, God was hunched over eternity's drafting table, designing you. Not just your body, not just your personality, but your exact mission blueprint. Jeremiah 1:5 whispers something that'll make your soul tremble. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you before you were born, I set you apart. But here's the twist that no Sunday school teacher ever unpacked for you. That word "knew" in Hebrew, it's yada. It doesn't mean God casually recognized you. It means He intimately, completely, eternally fused with your essence. God didn't just know you. He encoded you, like a cosmic fingerprint pressed into your DNA, like a heavenly barcode scanning you for missions that only battle-tested souls can handle. You think you're just another senior citizen shuffling through your golden years. You think you're just another forgotten face in America's youth-obsessed culture. You think those wrinkles are signs of decline. Dead wrong. Those lines on your face, they're not aging marks, they're activation codes. Every wrinkle tells the story of a battle you survived, a test you passed, a moment when you could have quit but didn't. God's been writing on your skin like a divine diary, documenting your qualification for what's coming next. See, here's what heaven knows that earth forgot. You weren't born human with a little bit of divine sprinkled on top. You were born 100% divine spirit wrapped in human skin as camouflage. Like an undercover agent in enemy territory, your human weaknesses are actually your greatest disguise. That arthritis in your hands, it's taught you to rely on God's strength instead of your own. That loneliness since your spouse passed, it's tuned your ear to hear heaven's voice clearer than ever. That feeling of being overlooked by a world that worships youth, it's freed you from caring about human applause so you can focus on divine assignment. Think about this. In Manhattan, there are layers and layers beneath the city streets. The subway system, the old aqueducts, the foundation stones from centuries ago. Most people walking Fifth Avenue have no clue about the intricate network humming beneath their feet. But it's that hidden infrastructure that keeps the whole city running. That's you, chosen one. You're the hidden infrastructure of heaven's plan on earth. While everyone's distracted by the surface show, you're the one carrying the eternal weight, the spiritual backbone that keeps everything from collapsing. Remember when Moses thought he was done at 80 years old, when he figured his best days were behind him, tending sheep in the middle of nowhere. Then God showed up in a burning bush and said, "Now we're just getting started." Exodus 3:10. "So now go, I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people out of Egypt." 80 years old, and God's calling him to liberate a nation. Why? Because it took 8 decades of preparation to build a man who could handle that kind of divine assignment. Moses wasn't aging out. He was aging into his purpose. That's what's been happening to you. Every year you've lived, every struggle you've endured, every test you've passed, it's all been building your capacity to carry something so magnificent that younger generations couldn't handle the weight. Your gray hair isn't evidence of decline. Proverbs 16:31 calls it a crown of splendor. That's heaven's way of saying you've graduated from basic training to special ops. You've moved from rookie to veteran status in God's army. And here's the part that's going to blow your mind. July 22nd, 2025. Today is your activation date. Not next week, not next year, not when you feel more ready. Today is when heaven flips the switch on everything you've been carrying in secret. Like invisible ink under ultraviolet light, your life's pains are about to illuminate the cosmic blueprint that's been hidden in plain sight. Every tear you've cried, every prayer you've whispered, every moment you've felt forgotten, it's all been mapping out the exact coordinates for your divine deployment. You know what's been happening while you thought you were just surviving. Heaven's been downloading upgrades into your spirit. Every hardship was actually a software update, preparing you for capabilities you don't even know you possess yet. That intuition you feel when you pray for someone and they get exactly what they need. That's not coincidence. That's your heavenly barcode, scanning the spiritual atmosphere and activating divine intervention. That peace you carry into chaotic situations that somehow calms everyone around you. That's not personality. That's the Prince of Peace operating through your yielded vessel. That wisdom people seek from you, even though you don't feel qualified to give advice. That's not life experience. That's the spirit of counsel speaking through decades of refined trust. You've been walking around thinking you're just a regular person with some spiritual beliefs. But heaven sees you as a classified operative with cosmic clearance carrying access codes that can shift atmospheres, heal hearts, and unlock destinies. That mark isn't a scar from your past, it's your cosmic ID proving you're heaven's secret agent in disguise. And ignoring this activation today means forfeiting the front row seat God carved out specifically for you in the greatest spiritual awakening this nation has ever seen. The question burning in heaven's courts right now is this: will you keep camouflaging as ordinary when you were engineered for extraordinary? Because what happens in the next few minutes will determine whether you step into your true identity or spend the rest of your days wondering what could have been. Now here's where the story takes a darker turn, chosen one. Even as your spirit recognizes the truth about your divine blueprint, there's still that familiar weight settling back on your shoulders like a lead blanket. You know exactly what I'm talking about. The crushing that shows up at 4 a.m. when you're staring at the ceiling of your apartment, listening to the sirens wail through the Bronx streets, feeling like the whole world has moved on without you. It's that suffocating pressure that squeezes your chest like a vice when you realize your phone hasn't rung in 3 days. When you scroll through Facebook and see your old high school classmates posting pictures of grandkids who actually visit them while yours live 2,000 miles away and barely call on your birthday. That weight that presses down when you look in the bathroom mirror and don't recognize the person staring back. When did your hands get so spotted? When did your back curve like that? When did you start looking like your mother? God rest her soul, and that voice whispers, "You're done. Your best years are behind you. Nobody needs you anymore. Nobody even sees you." You walk through Manhattan and feel invisible, like you're a ghost haunting your own life. Young people bump into you without apologizing, rushing past like you're just another piece of street furniture. Store clerks look right through you. Society has written you off as irrelevant, a relic from a bygone era. The void doesn't just sit there quietly, does it? No, it grows. It expands like floodwater in a basement, seeping into every corner of your existence. It whispers in the grocery store when you're buying dinner for one again. It screams in the silence of Sunday afternoons when the TV becomes your only companion. Remember when you used to have dreams. Remember when you believed God had plans for you. Remember when you thought your life would matter, that you'd leave some kind of mark on this world. Now those dreams feel like jokes, cruel tricks your younger self played on your older self. Here you are sitting in that same chair, in that same apartment, watching the same news cycle repeat itself, while you fade into the background like yesterday's newspaper. The void whispers, "You prayed for decades, and what do you have to show for it?" Your marriage ended, your kids moved away, your career amounted to nothing, your body is breaking down, your mind isn't as sharp, your time is running out. And the cruelest part, sometimes it feels like God is the one who left you in this void, like he was there when you were young and useful, but now that you're weathered and worn, he's moved on to fresher faces, newer models, people who still have energy and potential. You've sat in that subway car of silence, watching stop after stop go by, wondering if this is just what the rest of your life looks like. Empty seats, dim lighting, the rhythmic clacking of wheels on tracks going nowhere special. The weight of insignificance crushes down like the ceiling of a collapsing building. Every obituary you read in the paper makes you wonder, will anyone even notice when I'm gone? Will my life have mattered at all? Or will I just disappear like smoke in the wind, leaving nothing but faded photos and forgotten memories? Ecclesiastes 3:20 haunts you. All come from dust, and to dust all return. And you think, that's it, that's all there is. Dust to dust, and everything in between was just marking time. The crushing gets so heavy some days that you can barely lift your head. It whispers that you missed your calling, wasted your youth, squandered your opportunities. It tells you that other people got the blessings meant for you while you were waiting, hoping, believing in promises that never materialized. That void you've been living in feels like the bottom of the Hudson River. Dark, cold, crushing pressure from every direction. No light penetrating the depths where you've been drowning slowly for years. Yet here's what that crushing voice doesn't want you to know. Here's the secret it's desperate to keep hidden from you. That weight pressing down on your chest. It's not the weight of failure, it's the weight of compression, like coal buried deep in the earth for millions of years, subjected to crushing pressure and intense heat until it transforms into something precious. Something that catches light and throws it back in brilliant flashes. That void you've been living in. It's not God's punishment, it's God's pressure chamber. Every disappointment, every loss, every moment when you felt forgotten and invisible, it was all working together to compress your spirit into something unbreakable. Think about the Holland Tunnel, Chosen One. Before they could connect Manhattan to New Jersey, they had to dig through solid rock, through crushing depths where the pressure could kill a man in seconds. But that same pressure that threatened to destroy also held the tunnel walls in place, created the very foundation that millions now travel through safely. Your void has been that tunnel. Deep, dark, seemingly endless. But it wasn't meant to bury you. It was meant to create a pathway for something magnificent to travel through. In Job 23:10, that old man in his deepest agony declared, "But he knows the way that I take. When he has tested me, I will come forth as gold. Not silver, not bronze, not copper. Gold, the most precious metal that only emerges from the deepest mines, only shines after the hottest fires. The weight that's been crushing you isn't trying to destroy you. It's been forging you. Every sleepless night, every tear you've cried alone, every prayer that seemed to bounce off silent heavens, it was all pressure creating something precious. You think you're dust waiting to return to dust? You're wrong. You're a diamond that's been forming in the darkness, and July 22nd, 2025, today, is the day you finally surface. Scarred, yes. Marked by pressure, absolutely. But ready to catch light like nothing else in this world can. And right here, in this moment of recognition, everything is about to shift. Every tear you've cried is about to become a testimony. Every weight that crushed you is about to become the foundation for your elevation. But wait, do you hear that rumbling beneath your feet? That's not the subway, Chosen One. That's heaven mobilizing. That crushing pressure you just felt. It wasn't trying to bury you, it was loading you into God's divine catapult. Right now, at this very moment, while you're sitting there, thinking about those voids, those empty spaces, those crushing weights, heaven's war room is erupting with activity. Angels are being dispatched, principalities are being displaced, and God himself is standing up from his throne saying, "Enough. My child has been in the depths long enough. You think you've been forgotten in the basement. You've actually been loaded into the launch pad. Every tear you've cried has been rocket fuel being stored in heaven's tanks. Every rejection you've endured has been pressure building for this explosive moment. Remember the story of Joseph, 13 years, in a pit, in slavery, in prison, forgotten, overlooked, abandoned. But Genesis 41:14 says, "So Pharaoh sent for Joseph, and he was quickly brought from the dungeon." Quickly, not gradually, not eventually, quickly. One moment he's in chains, The next moment he's second in command of the most powerful nation on earth. That's what's happening to you today. July 22nd, 2025. God's not just proud of you sitting quietly in the back row. He's promoting you. He's shoving you to the front like a Times Square crowd, surging you to the parade's front line. You know what happens when a subway train that's been stuck in the tunnel suddenly gets the all clear. It doesn't creep forward slowly. It rockets through those dark passages, making up for lost time, flying past every station it was delayed at. That's you right now. Every delay, every detour, every moment when you thought you were stuck, it was all building momentum for this explosive surge forward. Your scars aren't evidence of damage, they're rocket fuel. Every wound you carry has been converted into propulsion power that's about to launch you past every doubter, every person who counted you out, every voice that said you were done. Listen to me, chosen one. God's pride in you isn't some quiet, polite nod from heaven. It's a thunderous roar that's shaking the foundations of hell. It's a cosmic shove that's pushing you from the back row to the front stage. You've been sitting in the cheap seats for too long, watching other people get the spotlight, while you wondered if your time would ever come. But Isaiah 61 is exploding over your life right now. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. Arise not when you feel ready, not when you think you're qualified, not when the conditions are perfect. Arise now, the light isn't coming, it has come. The glory isn't approaching, it's rising. Every void in your life has been a launch crater. Every empty space has been God, hollowing out room for the explosion of His glory. You think those dark places were graves? They were staging areas for the greatest comeback heaven ever orchestrated. You know what happens when they demolish a building in Manhattan? For months, it looks like destruction, like loss, like the end of something. But they're not destroying, they're clearing ground for something magnificent, a skyscraper that will dwarf what was there before. That's what's been happening in your life. The demolition wasn't destruction, it was preparation for a structure so massive that the old foundation couldn't have supported it. Right now, God is looking at you and saying, you survived the compression chamber, you endured the pressure test, you stayed faithful in the darkness. Now it's time to launch. This isn't about deserving it, this isn't about earning it, this is about God's unstoppable love for you. Deciding that your hiding season is over, your background era is finished, your waiting room appointment has been canceled because you're being called to the main stage. Psalm 113:7-8 declares it. He raises the poor from the dust and lifts the needy from the ash heap. He seats them with the princes of His people. Not eventually, not gradually. He raises, He lifts, He seats. You're not climbing your way up, chosen one. You're being launched. You're not earning your promotion. You're being catapulted into it. Every person who overlooked you is about to watch you soar past them. Every voice that said you were finished is about to hear you roar with new life. Every system that marginalized you is about to make room. Because when God promotes, nobody can demote the same God who parted the Red Sea, who brought down the walls of Jericho, who raised Lazarus from the dead. That God is saying about you, this one has been in the depths long enough. It's time to surge. Daniel 2:21 reminds us, He changes times and seasons. He deposes kings and raises up others. Your season is changing, not tomorrow, not next year. Today, July 22nd, 2025, is your promotion day. Stop looking at what you've lost and start seeing what you're gaining. Stop mourning what ended and start celebrating what's beginning. Stop counting your scars and start recognizing your rocket fuel. Heaven isn't whispering your name anymore, heaven is shouting it. God isn't politely suggesting you step forward, He's shoving you to the front. The tide isn't turning, it's become a tsunami of favor with your name written on every wave. You've been compressed in the darkness long enough to become the diamond that catches every ray of light and throws it back with blinding brilliance. The pressure that almost crushed you has created something so precious that heaven itself is about to put you on display. This surge isn't coming from your strength. It's powered by God's unstoppable determination to show the world what He can do with someone who refuses to quit on Him. But before you get carried away by that surge of hope, Chosen One, let me take you back to those quiet years, those shadow seasons when it felt like God had stepped out for coffee and forgot to come back, when your prayers echoed in empty rooms and your tears fell on deaf ears. You remember those years, don't you? When you sat in your kitchen at midnight stirring cold coffee, wondering if anyone in heaven even knew your name anymore. When you walked those forgotten streets in the Bronx past boarded-up windows and graffiti-covered walls, feeling like your life had become just another abandoned building in God's neighborhood. Those weren't wasted years, Chosen One. Those were forge years. You see, in the hidden alleys of the South Bronx, there are still old-school blacksmith shops tucked away from the main streets, places where real craftsmen work in silence away from the noise and the crowds, where the only sounds are the rhythmic hammering on hot steel and the hiss of metal being tempered in water. That's where you've been living, not in abandonment but in the forge. Every sleepless night when worry hammered at your peace, that was God reshaping your trust. Every financial blow that left you gasping, that was divine fire burning away your dependence on everything except Him. Every relationship that ended, every door that slammed, every dream that seemed to die. All of it was the master craftsman's hands working you over the anvil of adversity. Isaiah 48:10 whispers, "The secret, see, I have refined you, though not as silver. I have tested you in the furnace of affliction." Not punishment, Chosen One. Refinement. There's a massive difference between being burned up and being purified. You thought those shadow seasons meant God had forgotten you, but smiths work in the shadows because that's where you can see the true color of the fire. That's where you can tell when the metal is ready, when it glows just right, when it's hot enough to be shaped, but not so hot that it cracks. Your loneliness wasn't neglect. It was necessary isolation. Like a surgeon who clears the operating room of distractions before performing life-saving surgery, God had to remove the noise, the opinions, the false comforts that would have interfered with what He was crafting in you. Think about those years when your phone stopped ringing, when invitations dried up, when you felt invisible in your own life. You called it rejection, but heaven called it selection. God was protecting His work in progress from contamination, from voices that would have told you to settle, to give up, to accept less than what He was preparing you for. In those forgotten years, while everyone else was busy networking and climbing ladders and chasing spotlights, you were in the silent forge getting your soul reshaped. Every hammer blow of hardship was precise, purposeful, perfectly timed. You know what happens in a real forge, Chosen One. The metal doesn't feel the craftsman's love in the moment of striking. All it feels is the blow, the heat, the pressure. But the craftsman sees what the metal cannot, the sword being born, the tool taking shape, the weapon being forged that will serve purposes the raw metal never could have imagined. Job understood this mystery. In Job 23:10, after losing everything, after sitting in ashes, scraping his sores with broken pottery, he declared, "But He knows the way that I take. When He has tested me, I will come forth as gold." Not hope, not wishful thinking, certainty. I will come forth as gold. Job recognized that the furnace wasn't his final destination. It was his graduation ceremony. Those shadow seasons when you couldn't feel God's presence, He was closer than your own breath, holding you steady on the anvil, making sure every strike landed exactly where it needed to, shaping you with the precision of a master craftsman who's been at this for eternity. The silence you interpreted as absence was actually the focused concentration of a God who loves you too much to rush the process, because what he's been creating in you couldn't be mass-produced. It had to be hand-forged, one hammer blow at a time, one test at a time, one lonely night at a time. Your scars aren't random wounds from a chaotic life. They're deliberate etchings from a divine artist who's been carving his signature into your soul. Every line of pain tells the story of endurance. Every mark of suffering proves your capacity to carry weight that would crush others. Look at the Brooklyn Bridge, Chosen One. For 16 years, workers labored in dangerous conditions, many dying in the process to create something that would connect two worlds and last for generations. The construction was brutal, costly, seemingly endless. But what emerged wasn't just a bridge. It was a masterpiece of engineering that still carries millions across treacherous waters every year. That's what's been happening in your life. Not random suffering, but strategic construction. God's been building something in you that will carry others across the treacherous waters of despair, doubt, and defeat. The hammer blows that shattered your plans. They were removing the impurities that would have made you brittle under pressure. The fire that melted down your securities, it was liquefying the hard places in your heart, so God could reshape them into vessels of compassion. Malachi 3:3 reveals the refiner's secret. He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. He will purify the Levites and refine them like gold and silver. The refiner doesn't walk away during the process. He sits, he watches, he waits until he can see his own reflection in the molten metal. God has been sitting with you through every moment of that silent forge, watching, waiting until he could see his own character reflected in your surrender, his own strength shining through your scars, his own love flowing through your brokenness. Those shadow moments you want to forget, they're actually your credentials. Every tear you've cried in secret has been collected as holy water for baptizing the broken. Every prayer you've whispered in darkness has tuned your ear to hear heaven's frequency above earth's noise. The forge never felt like love, but it was the deepest expression of it. And now, on July 22nd, 2025, the master craftsman is finally ready to lift his work from the fire and reveal what those shadow years have created. Now, right now, in this very moment, the master craftsman is lifting his masterpiece from the forge. The silent years are over. The shadow season is shattered. And what's emerging from that fire isn't just survival, it's supremacy, Chosen One. You've been refined long enough. You've been tested, proven purified, and now, July 22nd, 2025, heaven is erupting with one thunderous declaration. My child is ready for the front row. You know what happens when a Broadway show ends and the curtain rises for the final bow? The audience doesn't politely clap for the understudy. They leap to their feet for the star who carried the whole production. That's what's happening in heaven's theater right now. Angels are rising to their feet because you, with all your scars, all your struggle, all your story, you are taking your final bow. But this isn't the end, Chosen One. This is your debut. This is heaven launching you from the wings straight into the spotlight. Every gray hair on your head, that's not evidence of decline. That's your crown of wisdom. Proverbs 16:31 declares, "Gray hair is a crown of splendor. It is attained in the way of righteousness." You didn't just age, you graduated. You didn't just survive, you conquered. The world looks at your years and whispers, "Too old," but heaven roars, "Too powerful." They see wrinkles, God sees battle scars. They see limitations, God sees credentials. You think those young faces pushing past you on the subway understand pressure? You think those smooth-skinned influencers know what real strength looks like? They've been in training camp while you've been on the battlefield. They've been playing dress-up while you've been getting dressed down by life and still standing. Moses was 80 when God called him to liberate a nation. Abraham was 100 when he became a father of nations. Caleb was 85 when he said, "Give me this mountain." These weren't has-beens, these were heavyweights ready for their championship fight. Your age isn't your expiration date, it's your activation code. Every year you've lived has downloaded more of heaven's wisdom into your operating system. Every decade has been a software upgrade, preparing you for functions that rookies can't handle. Right now, as we speak, God is standing up in heaven's boardroom, and he's not whispering, he's roaring. You see that one down there? The one they've been overlooking, the one they think is past their prime. That's my secret weapon. That's the one I've been preparing for such a time as this. Isaiah 46:4 thunders across eternity. Even to your old age and gray hairs, I am he who will sustain you. I have made you and I will carry you. I will sustain you and I will rescue you, not tolerate you, carry you, not endure you, rescue you. The same God who carried you through every valley is now launching you to every peak. The same hands that sustained you in the shadows are now shoving you into the spotlight. You've been sitting in the nosebleed seats, watching other people get recognized, wondering if your moment would ever come. But Chosen One, your seat assignment just got upgraded. Heaven's head usher is walking down the aisle right now, tapping you on the shoulder, saying, "Excuse me, there's been a mistake. You're supposed to be in the front row." Every void you've endured has become a vehicle for victory. Every crack in your heart has become a channel for heaven's light. To pour through every scar you carry has become a sword you wield for others. Still trapped in the darkness, you escaped. The enemy thought those battles would break you, but they just built you. He thought those losses would defeat you, but they just defined you. He thought those delays would discourage you, but they just developed you. Now God is saying, enough hiding, enough doubting, enough shrinking. It's time to claim what I've been preparing. It's time to step into what I've been building. It's time to grab your front row seat. Like a New Yorker grabbing the last taxi in a thunderstorm, your too old label was heaven's decoy. While the world was dismissing you as yesterday's news, God was turning you into tomorrow's headline. While they were writing you off as irrelevant, heaven was writing you into the greatest comeback story ever told. Ecclesiastes 3:1 declares, "To everything there is a season and a time, to every purpose under the heaven." Your season just changed. Your time just arrived. Your purpose just got activated. The silence that confused you was God's strategy. The waiting that frustrated you was heaven's preparation. The void that crushed you was actually God's vault storing up glory that's now about to explode over your life. God's pride in you isn't a quiet nod of approval. It's a cosmic roar that's shaking the foundations of hell and rattling the gates of heaven. It's a divine shove that's pushing you past every limitation, every label, every lie that said you were finished. You're not stepping into this slowly chosen one. You're being catapulted. You're not climbing your way up gradually. You're being launched. You're not earning this through performance. You're inheriting it through persistence. The front row isn't just open, it's been reserved with your name on it since before time began. The spotlight isn't just available, it's been calibrated specifically for your story. The stage isn't just ready, it's been constructed to showcase the masterpiece you've become. Psalm 75:6-7 explodes with this truth. No one from the east or the west or from the desert can exalt themselves. It is God who judges. He brings one down, he exalts another. Your exaltation isn't coming from human effort, it's coming from divine decree. Right here, right now, on July 22nd, 2025, God is exalting you, not next month, not next year. Today, the promotion isn't pending, it's processing. The breakthrough isn't coming, it's arriving. Stop looking around for permission and start claiming what's already yours. Stop waiting for someone to call your name and start answering to the identity heaven already gave you. This is it, chosen one. This is your moment to rise from the back row and claim your front row glory. This is when every tear becomes a testimony, every scar becomes a signature, and every void becomes a victory. And now, in this sacred quiet that follows the storm, chosen one, let me hold your hand for a moment. Let me speak to that trembling part of your soul that's finally beginning to understand what God has been doing all these years. You're sitting there, aren't you? Maybe tears are already starting to well up in your eyes as the magnitude of this hits you. Not just what God is doing for you, but what He's been doing through you all along. See, while you were busy thinking your pain was pointless, while you were convinced your struggles were just random suffering, heaven was weaving something so much bigger than your individual story. Your tears weren't just washing your own wounds, they were watering seeds for generations you'll never meet. Think about your grandmother, chosen one. Think about her weathered hands, her tired eyes, the way she carried pain she never talked about, the way she smiled through struggles that would have broken others. What if I told you that her silent endurance, her quiet faith, her refusal to let bitterness take root, what if all of that was flowing into your bloodline like underground rivers, giving you the strength to survive what you thought would kill you? And what if your pain, your endurance, your refusal to quit, what if it's flowing forward the same way? What if your grandchildren's children will one day face their own impossible moments and find strength they can't explain, courage that seems to come from somewhere beyond themselves? Exodus 26 speaks of God showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. 1,000 generations, chosen one. Your faithfulness isn't just changing your story, it's echoing through centuries of bloodlines you'll never see. That child you lost too early, that marriage that ended in heartbreak, that dream that died before it could breathe. You think those were just your private tragedies, but heaven sees them as generational gateways. Every tear you've cried has been washing away curses that would have fallen on children not yet born. You've been a circuit breaker, chosen one. Every cycle of abuse you refused to continue, every pattern of addiction you fought to break, every moment you chose forgiveness over vengeance. You've been stopping destructive currents that have been running through your family tree for generations. The alcoholism that haunted your father, it stops with you. The depression that claimed your mother, it ends with your faithfulness. The poverty mindset that trapped your ancestors, your trust in God's provision is creating a new inheritance for bloodlines yet to come. But here's what will break your heart open. You've also been bleeding for people who aren't even your blood. That coworker who seemed to always lean on you during their crises. That neighbor who knocked on your door when their world was falling apart. That stranger at the grocery store who somehow felt safe enough to pour out their pain to you in the checkout line. You think those were coincidences, random encounters. No, chosen one, your wounds have been giving you access to other wounded souls. Your scars have been creating safe harbors for people drowning in their own storms. Isaiah 53:5 speaks of wounds that heal. By His wounds we are healed. Jesus' scars became our salvation. And in a shadow of that cosmic mystery, your scars have been becoming healing balm for others. Every time you held someone while they cried, you were letting God's comfort flow through the cracks in your own heart. Every time you spoke hope into someone's despair, you were channeling strength that was forged in your own valley. Every time you became a soft place for someone to land, you were transforming your pain into a sanctuary. You know that quiet grace you carry when you walk into rooms full of chaos. That's not just wisdom, that's the peace that comes from surviving storms and learning to trust the lighthouse in the darkness. You've become a lighthouse yourself, chosen one. Your steady beam has been guiding ships to safety through nights they thought would never end. But the legacy goes even deeper. Think about the prayers you've prayed through tears, The midnight conversations with God when you thought no one was listening. The whispered "help me" that escaped your lips when you thought you couldn't take another step. Revelation 8:4 reveals the mystery. The smoke of the incense, together with the prayers of God's people, went up before God from the angel's hand. Your prayers haven't just been heard, they've been collected, stored, treasured in heaven's treasury. And here's what will make you weep with holy awe. Every prayer you prayed for your children when they were rebelling, every cry you lifted for your grandchildren, you barely get to see every desperate plea for family members who seem beyond hope. Those prayers are still working, still moving, still creating atmospheric pressure in the spirit realm. Your son who ran from God for 20 years. Your prayers were chasing him the whole time. Your daughter who married the wrong man and won't listen to reason. Your intercession has been building a hedge of protection around her that she doesn't even see. The grandchild struggling with addiction. Your tears have been softening soil in the spirit realm, preparing ground for seeds of deliverance to take root. Romans 8:26 promises, "The Spirit helps us in our weakness. We do not know what we ought to pray for, but the Spirit Himself intercedes for us through wordless groans." Those groans, chosen one. Those moments when you couldn't even form words, when all you could do was ache before God. The Holy Spirit was translating your heart's cry into prayer languages that moved heaven and earth. You've been a generational intercessor without even knowing it. While you thought you were just barely surviving, you've been standing in the gap for bloodlines, creating spiritual bank accounts that your descendants will inherit. Look at your hands right now, chosen one. Really look at them. Those aren't just hands that have worked and worried and wiped tears. Those are hands that have been building bridges across generations. Every act of love, every moment of sacrifice, every choice to keep going when quitting felt easier. All of it has been creating pathways for grace to flow forward and backward through time. Your legacy isn't what you built in this world, chosen one. Your legacy is what you bled into eternity, and the tears you're crying right now. They're not just tears of realization about your own story. They're tears of recognition that your pain has been giving birth to purposes you never imagined, healing wounds in people you'll never meet and creating hope for futures you'll only see from heaven's balcony. The question echoing through eternity right now is this: can you finally see what your wounds have been birthing? Can you finally understand that your greatest pain has been your most powerful gift to a world that desperately needed what only your specific scars could provide? But wait, do you feel that electrical charge in the air, like lightning about to strike the Empire State Building? Those tears you just shed, those generational echoes you just recognized, they're not just memories anymore, chosen one. They're codes, they're frequencies, they're resonance chambers that heaven is about to activate. Resonance rises, resonance rises, resonance rises. From those very depths where you thought you were drowning, heaven's cosmic decoder is unlocking secrets that have been buried in your DNA since before time began. Every sob, every silent scream, every moment you thought you were falling apart, you were actually tuning in to eternal frequencies that only pain could calibrate. You know what happens when you drop a stone into the Hudson River? The ripples don't stop at the surface. They travel down, down, down to the riverbed, then echo back up with power multiplied. That's what's happening to your pain right now. Those echoes from your abyss. They're not ghosts haunting your past. They're heaven's war horns announcing your promotion. Every trauma you survived has been creating resonance chambers in your soul, amplifying God's voice above the noise of this world. Resonance awakens, resonance awakens, resonance awakens. Think about the subway system beneath Manhattan, chosen one. Miles and miles of tunnels, all connected, all vibrating with the same frequency, When a train moves through any part of the system, your pain has been creating underground railways in the spirit realm, and now heaven is sending a power surge through every tunnel you've dug with your tears. What if those mental scars you've been ashamed of aren't chains around your ankles? They're amplification systems for heaven's broadcast. What if every crack in your heart has become a resonance chamber where God's voice echoes with multiplied power? Psalm 34:18 declares, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." But here's the explosive twist. No preachers ever unpacked. God doesn't just get close to broken hearts. He installs himself in the cracks. He turns your wounds into wireless receivers for heaven's frequency. The depression that tried to kill you, it carved out space for supernatural joy that can't be manufactured. The anxiety that tormented you, it created sensitivity to God's voice that others can't even hear. The loneliness that crushed you, it built capacity for divine intimacy that crowds could never provide. Resonance explodes, resonance explodes, resonance explodes. Every time you felt like you were losing your mind, you were actually downloading heaven's operating system. Every moment you thought you were breaking, you were being broken open to receive frequencies that solid hearts couldn't handle. Look at the Manhattan skyline right now. Every single one of those towering buildings is anchored deep underground. The taller the building, the deeper the foundation had to go. Your pain has been creating foundational depth that can now support skyscraper-level glory. July 22nd, 2025. Today is the day heaven's celestial engineers flip the switch on your resonance chambers. What you thought was silence becomes symphony. What felt like emptiness becomes echo chambers for miracles. The enemy thought those wounds would make you weak, but they've made you supersonic. You're not just walking into blessing, chosen one. You're broadcasting it on frequencies that pierce through dimensions. Isaiah 61:3 promises beauty for ashes. But here's the resonance revelation. Your ashes weren't just exchanged, they were transformed into broadcast towers. Every place you burned becomes a transmission point for heaven's signal. Listen, do you hear it? That rumbling beneath your feet? That's not the subway, chosen one. That's every pain you've ever felt beginning to vibrate in harmony with heaven's frequency. The tremor in your hands isn't age, it's power surge. The flutter in your chest isn't anxiety, it's activation. Resonance decoded. Resonance decoded. Resonance decoded. Your scars aren't random wounds anymore, they're sacred circuitry. Every mark tells a story of endurance that creates pathways for supernatural current. You're not just healed, chosen one, you're electrified. Think about the old church bells in Brooklyn that ring across entire neighborhoods. They don't just make noise, they create resonance that awakens something deep in every soul that hears them. That's what your story is becoming. Your pain is being tuned to ring with such divine frequency that it will wake up destinies in people who are still spiritually sleeping. Those years when you felt forgotten, heaven was fine-tuning your receivers. Those moments when you thought God was silent, he was calibrating your resonance chambers for this exact moment, when he's ready to broadcast through you with explosive power. Jeremiah 1:12 declares, "I am watching to see that my word is fulfilled." God has been watching your frequency, adjusting your sensitivity, preparing your resonance chambers for a broadcast so powerful that it will reach from Times Square to eternity. The mental battles you fought in secret, they were sound checks for the symphony about to explode through your life. The emotional storms you weathered, they were creating acoustic chambers that can now amplify whispers from heaven into roars that shake principalities. Every medication you've taken, every therapy session you've endured, every moment you've fought to stay sane, it was all heaven's way of upgrading your internal sound system. You're not damaged. God's chosen one, your high-definition equipment resonance ignites, Resonance ignites. Resonance ignites right now. As the clock ticks toward heaven's appointed hour, your pain is being decoded into prophetic power. Every tear is becoming a transmission tower. Every scar is becoming a satellite dish, receiving direct communication from the throne room. The same God who spoke worlds into existence is about to speak through your wounds with such resonance that people 3 time zones away will feel the tremor. Your story isn't just being rewritten, it's being broadcast across frequencies that reach from Brooklyn to the Book of Life. But here's the explosive finale, building like thunder over the East River. If your echoes are becoming heaven's war horns, if your wounds are resonance chambers, if July 22nd is your activation date, then what happens when God stops whispering through your pain and starts roaring through your victory? Chosen one, as we close this divine encounter, remember 3 unshakable truths heaven wants etched into your heart forever. First, your scars are not your shame, they are your credentials. Every wound, every tear, every crushing moment was forging you into the warrior heaven needed for this exact moment. You didn't survive by accident, you were preserved on purpose. Second, your age is not your expiration date, it's your activation code. While the world whispers, too old, heaven roars, too powerful. Moses was 80 when God called him to greatness. You're not declining, you're arriving. Third, July 22nd, 2025. Today isn't just another date, it's your divine promotion ceremony. The front row seat has your name on it, and heaven is done waiting for you to believe you deserve it. You are not walking this journey alone. The same God who carried you through every valley is pushing you toward every victory. His hand is still on your life, His voice still calling your name, His plans still unfolding with perfect precision. And here's something beautiful that I've witnessed in 5 decades of ministry. When God moves on behalf of His chosen ones, it creates a ripple effect that touches generations. Your breakthrough isn't just for you, it's for every person who's been watching your story, wondering if God still moves mountains. When you step into your front row glory, you become living proof that He does. Look at the comments below. Those are your spiritual family warriors who've been in valleys, souls who've felt forgotten, chosen ones hearing heaven's call to step forward. This community spans continents, crosses denominations, and bridges every barrier that man tries to build. In Christ, we are one family, one army, one unstoppable force for His kingdom. I've seen God use 75-year-old grandmothers to start revival movements. I've watched 80-year-old grandfathers become the answer to their prodigal children's prayers. I've witnessed seniors who thought their time was over become the very vessels God used to pour out His Spirit in the final hour. Your story matters. Your voice carries weight. Your prayers have been building spiritual momentum that's about to break like a tsunami of God's goodness over your family, your community, your sphere of influence. Share this message, because somewhere another warrior needs to hear their scars are sacred and their season is changing. Someone is sitting in their apartment right now feeling invisible, wondering if they missed their chance. Your obedience to share could be the lifeline that pulls them from despair into destiny. Think about this. If you hadn't clicked on this video, if you hadn't stayed until this moment, you would have missed this divine appointment. God orchestrated your path to this message because He knew you needed to hear it. He knew you were ready for it. He knew it was time. Here's my soul-piercing question. If God Himself is proud of you, if heaven is cheering for your breakthrough, what will you do with this moment? Will you let it fade into just another inspirational video you watched? Or will it be the turning point where everything changed? Your response to this moment will determine whether you walk back into the same old patterns or step boldly into the new chapter God has been preparing. The choice is yours, but the invitation is divine. Let me pray over you with the authority of 5 decades, watching God move mountains. Father God, I place my hands on every chosen one. Hearing this prayer, you see them, right where they are in their living rooms, their bedrooms, maybe in their cars with tears streaming down their faces. You know their names, their stories, their weight. Today, July 22nd, 2025, lift that weight off their shoulders. Let every void overflow with your presence. Swing wide the doors you're opening. Silence every voice saying they're too old, too broken, too late. Replace those lies with your thunderous truth. I pray supernatural strength floods their bodies, divine peace guards their minds, holy boldness fills their spirits. Let them walk out different than they walked in. Let them carry themselves like the royalty you've declared them to be. Open doors no man can shut. Bring divine connections that accelerate their purpose. Release supernatural provision that defies their circumstances.